Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Monday. It is March the 9th. I appreciate you guys being along with me for the ride. We're going to be talking about gas prices. They've gone up. You're not supposed to notice. In fact, they've gone up, and what we got is some talking points reminding us that there's a few things we should do. And that's to remember that with no pain, there will be no gain. So we need some short-term pain in the gas market to have some long-term gains in unclear, maybe getting rid of nuclear programs, maybe getting rid of ballistic missiles, maybe doing a regime change. Guys, this is not the Iraq war, okay? This is a different thing where oil prices go up, despite the fact that we were going to campaign on a thing called affordability. That's now a Democrat talking point. So if you're going to go out there and talk about affordability, that's just because you are using Democrat talking points. The Republican talking point is very, very simple. No pain, no gain, just like Mark Wahlberg and The Rock. I think I got that right. Let's go ahead and make sure we also confirm that this is not a war. This is a kinetic action. This is a military strike. That is definitely not a war. Even if the president calls it a war, it's not a war. God. Okay, I got that one right too. Also, we have a very, very serious domestic policy, and that includes people doing performative social media posts. And if you make fun of them for being bad at what they've done, then you're a problem. And that means you're probably not an American. In fact, why don't you go back to where you're from? Not American, who was born in America. We're going to cover a whole bunch of fun stuff, like the replacement of people who are from this country. I haven't touched on it in a little bit, but we're going to touch a little bit on a thing called bacon cheeseburger nationalism. If you're new to the program, this is my simple idea that Americans across the board who fit into the dominant culture of America will enjoy a bacon cheeseburger with you. If you were to offer them a burger at a backyard barbecue and you say, do you want cheese on that burger? The answer is generally going to be yes. I'm not delineating what kind of cheese it is. I don't care if it's American or cheddar or Swiss. If you're interested in having a cheeseburger at a backyard barbecue, and I say, would you like some bacon with that? And they say, is it crispy? And the answer is, yeah, of course it's crispy. This is America. Then you might fit into the category of a bacon cheeseburger nationalist. It's that simple. The politics are a burger with bacon on it, because what that eliminates are the non-dominant cultures. It doesn't mean you can't be here, and it doesn't mean that you don't have some claim to this nation. But this nation is a group of meat eaters who, generally speaking, don't have the dietary restrictions of Hindus and Muslims and Jewish people. But it doesn't mean they don't live here. It just means the dominant culture of this country has always been what it's always been. And at this point, in 2026, you can represent it with a simple food group that you'll find at every American diner. And if you have the choice and you're looking at it and it costs an extra $2 for bacon, you're like, yeah, that makes sense to me. I'll have $2 more and some crispy bacon. For those of you that live in regional parts of the country, you might add some things to it. Maybe you're adding queso. Maybe you're adding green chili. I don't care about all that. All I'm saying is the basic food groups of American food. If somebody was going to say, what's the most American meal there is? It would probably be a bacon cheeseburger. And we got a bunch of people that think they can rewrite history. They can rewrite what's going on in this country, rewrite who are the people in this country. And that's really strange too. You come to the country, you join our dominant culture, and then you can participate. And anybody can be an American as long as you are an American. That's not the same case everywhere. And what's wild is seeing redefinitions happen overseas, and you can see that it's coming our direction. So I'm going to touch a little bit on something from the British Home Secretary, who is a Pakistani descent woman who wants to redefine what the word English means. I think that actually has some relevance to those who want to redefine what American is. And then we're going to get into a war effort and all the people that can't sit on a single bit of principle. It doesn't matter. The funny thing that you see in all these commentary spaces is that so many of these folks who have such strong opinions, and you're the bad person if you think other than them. And I'm thinking of the Mark Levins, I'm thinking of the Ben Shapiro's, I'm thinking of the Lindsey Grahams, Ted Cruz, take your pick. All of these people sit in one specific category. They have flip-flopped on every major issue depending on Where does the populist sort of sensation go? Where's the money at? They don't actually sit on principles, which is kind of funny because that's all I sit on. I say the same things. I've been saying the same things. I may have evolved in the way that I'm discussing it, but I say the same things that I've been saying since I've been saying them. And it turns out there's a pretty short record of that because I used to be an FBI agent and nobody actually knew what I thought about anything because I just worked in the federal government quietly with no social media right up until I didn't. More on that in a second as well. All right. So before we get into all of the fun stuff that I've got, and I've got a whole smorgasbord full of clips and things that are not just outrageous, but also really frustrating because some of us actually wanted this to be a successful 4-year presidency, and it's not going that route. I give it a 15 out of 10. That's how good it's going. That's Donald Trump's words, his own self-assessment. Let's start off with my friends over at Cove Pure. This is something that's really easy. It's also one of the most simple things you can do for your health. Drink water. Most of us don't drink enough of it. I try to pound it when I'm doing workouts. I almost always am light on that, guys. If you are trying to do a New Year routine where you're trying to get healthy, one of the things that you may be skipping is water. Don't do that. And don't put whatever junk is in the water. If you live in places like I've lived in places where there was high arsenic content. I found out there was freaking JP8 jet fuel in mine when I was living in Albuquerque. Yeah, it's leached into the soil. If you guys are getting groundwater that tastes like sulfur, like it does where we live, you guys can fix that immediately. You can get good tasting, clean water that removes, and I'm sorry, you can get a machine that'll actually remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. PFAs, microplastics, pharmaceutical residues, fluorides, things that taste crappy. I regularly find that the water where I'm living has something like 999. That's maxing out the meter on our Cove Pure. That tells us that's how much TDS it has. That's the total dissolved solid. So there's all kinds of minerals and crap that we don't want drinking our water, and they all change the taste. Guys, if you want to be able to select the temperature, if you want to be able to do hot, cold, warm, luke, etc., if you want to be able to make instant coffee or you want cool water to drink, preset sizes that your kids are not going to have overrun, and you want to be able to remember how much you're actually drinking, check out my friends over at Cove Pure. The website is Cove, C-O-V-E, pure, Pure.com/Kyle. Again, covepure.com/Kyle. You're going to get $200 at $200 off the regular price on checkout. There's no plumbing. You just put it on a countertop, push the button, you get clean water, and it might be the easiest water filtration system to set up. I have other ones. We still use some other ones, but I'm dreading the day when I actually have to go and swap out the filters. This thing is like drop in, push button, walk away, good to go. So check them out. Very good for people who are renting and people who do not want to drill into things and do whole house filters and all that kind of stuff. All right, we're going to get into today's program starting now. Check out the links in the show description for all of our sponsors. I'm going to lead off with social media drama only because it was kind of funny. I actually hate social media. Maybe you guys don't know that, but as much time as I spend there, it's sort of like the business that I'm in right now. It does actually make money. So in full disclosure, I think Twitter paid out about $10,000 last year. It's not a make or break thing in the world, but a $10,000 raise, it's not nothing. So, keeps me in ammo money. It pays for bulk flour or whatever it is that my wife's passions are as well. So we do make money at that. I make money at that, but it is really frustrating to get in the space of being on social media, especially when there's a few dollars involved. And then people assume that I'm doing that. If I wanted to make a lot of money on social media, I would just turn around, drop to my knees, and then lick whatever garbage comes out of the Trump administration. I would lick whatever these right-leaning sycophantic posts push out. I don't do that. I actually tend to push back against government, and we've actually had about 40 people fired because of the Twitter account I maintain, which is pretty wild. Whenever somebody says, "Oh, what have you done?" The answer is, I've gotten more people fired out of the FBI than any of you have. Period. I've called attention to things that needed to be called attention to, and then they did the dumbest things out there. So be it. The results are pretty undeniable. We've had significant movement. Some senior officials were removed because of it. Some sort of collateral damage happened as well. They're all going to be, I'm sure my Twitter account will be called into numerous lawsuits. It's just the way that it goes. All right, here's where this is going. You'd think in a serious country with serious people doing serious things that maybe one of the most serious agencies, the DOJ, which has the ability to do the most serious damage to Americans' experience of liberty, you'd think that they'd be doing more important things than this garbage. Now, this is not a personal Twitter account that's on the screen right now. This is the official government posting of Associate Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, who many of you think is great. And she's not that great. And I know that because I've talked to her on the phone, and she wasn't great when I talked to her on the phone. And I dealt with her employees attorneys that worked for her when I was looking at suing the FBI, and they basically told me it's not worth it. Don't worry about suing the FBI because you're going to end up spending as much money as you could ever get from them. It turns out that's actually not true. Turns out we're probably going to be in better shape because somebody else did pick up this case. This is what she posted. Shall not be infringed. This is an Indian-born woman. It's not mean to say that she was born in India. She was actually born in India. More on that in a second. A woman who was born in India and moved to this country. She lives in California and has made a very profitable business in California as a California Republican. And there are plenty of conservative people in California, and then there are plenty of people that are part of the GOP. And they can be very different types of human beings. You don't have to be a Republican to be conservative, and you're definitely not necessarily conservative if you are, in fact, a Republican. This woman plays party politics. She's always wanted to be at the top of things. She managed to get herself a political appointment into the AAG spot, and she is in charge of the Civil Rights Division. That is a really big place. That's a really big deal. The Civil Rights Division has really come after a lot of folks in previous years, and they're a truly dangerous organization. I'm not 100% sure we should even have it. But here she is pretending that the Justice Department, which has done, let's say, a mediocre job at defending the Second Amendment. In fact, is still fighting for government rights to actually infringe on guns. And she's out here saying, shall not be infringed. It's a great time at the range to practice form and accuracy to a America flag. And then posted videos of apparently not her and her randomly. There are 3 women. They all have dark hair. They're all wearing blue jeans. I only say that because only somebody who really, really gave a damn about Harmeet Dillon would find out, oh, in fact, this is not just pictures of Harmeet Dillon shooting a gun. This is pictures of other women who happen to look like Harmeet Dillon from the back, although they have better feminine figures, shooting guns. And some of them have truly atrocious posture. They don't know what they're doing. They're not working on form nor accuracy. Now, the funny thing about this particular social media post, and the reason why it's relevant, is because she posted her results and said, not bad from 10 yards. Clearly a California woman who doesn't shoot guns. This is not just not bad. This is atrocious. And it's the kind of thing that you'd see from someone who is, let's say, 150 pounds overweight. And then they showed up at a gym one day and they walked on the treadmill. And for the first time in decades, they sweat while doing something that was good for their heart. And then they posted like an inspirational post from a government account, no less, saying, fitness is really critical to your health. Make sure you're working out every day. I've worked out one day. That's kind of what I see here. This is not good shooting. This is atrocious shooting. This means that you are too far away from your target. Guys, I know a little something about shooting guns. If you're shooting at that distance and you're not on a timer where you are trying to shoot this thing in under, let's say, I don't know, 1.5 seconds from 10 yards, which this is still pretty mediocre for, you should be pulling that target closer to you and working on fundamentals of marksmanship. There should be a small group out there, and until you can stack rounds at 10 yards with no timer and no sort of stress, and you're in a very closed, controlled environment, then there's no reason to post this. This is not saying, oh, I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment. What this says is I have no business shooting at 10 yards, and I'm going to shoot people in all directions. There are shots that didn't make it into the target. There are shots that are on the far side of the paper that are not in the actual lines that are drawn in there. This is a mess. And the only reason this matters is because I made a post about it. You know, like when you're a government official and you do something stupid, then we get to call you out and show what a fool you are. I said, as the DOJ fights to defend gun laws so Americans can't have them from Americans, this woman LARPs as only a Californian from India can. That's my entire post. And apparently that was very emotional and offensive. Because, by the way, I don't know who this lady is that's not Harmeet Dillon in Harmeet Dillon's post, but she's like doing a high-heeled stance. Kind of like Janine Pirro, who's also a fake gun owner. Harmeet Dillon took time out of her busy schedule as the AAG, not doing a great job, to say, that's not me, Kyle. But great investigative work there. I'm so glad that you're an FBI special agent. The bigotry is a little concerning. Be better. Couple things that are pretty dangerous about this. We have the Associate Attorney General, the number 3 person in the DOJ, claiming that I'm an FBI special agent. Would they like to give me the back pay, please? That'd be fantastic. Number 2, who does investigations on social media posts when someone posts someone that looks like them? But it's not them. Nobody. I have no due diligence requirement. I see your post. It looks like you. Why would I know what Harmeet Dillon looks like from the back? She also, amusingly, decided that it's bigotry to point out something that is actually true. She's from India. She was born in India. If you guys would like, I don't think anybody wants it, but I can play you videos of her singing in whatever language her family speaks at home when she was growing up. She did some sort of demon worshiping routine at the RNC where she stood up, put on a veil, and then sang to demon gods or whatever the heck it is that they do. Nothing about that is bacon cheeseburger national. Nothing about that is conservative, it turns out. But it is Republicans in this day and age. And so it shouldn't be shocking when these are the kind of champions we have, and their big job is to try to own somebody on social media about things that are clearly not true. Look, that may not be Harmeet Dillon, but I'm not an FBI agent. And one of those is a lot more concerning than the other, because I actually did what I was trained to do. And I actually worked for the group that she is in charge of. She's at DOJ. They run the FBI, guys, whether you like it or not. And it was DOJ policies that came out of someone in an AAG role that made me no longer work there. And by the way, they're not settling our lawsuit. They're fighting it tooth and nail, even though they already fired the people at the FBI who did what we allege that they did. So this is kind of personal and silly. And it got thousands and thousands of views, hundreds of thousands of views, and thousands of likes. Because we're living in a time that is so unserious that these people have power and this is how they choose to use it. Can I go out there and get my government account to get likes because I'm not actually doing a job? For anyone who thinks she's doing a great job, let me know what the top 10 things are that she's done. It has the same kind of vibes as what I've seen gone on overseas. This is a video clip that made some rounds. It bothers me significantly to find out that a woman who was born in Birmingham from parents who are Pakistani considers herself English. There are words and they have meanings. You know, kind of like our Second Amendment have words and they have very concrete and specific meanings. When you hear things like shall not be infringed, it would be really helpful if people actually looked at it and went, oh, the federal government is not allowed to regulate privately owned arms. There should only be state laws. And if we have some Supreme Court decisions that say that those can't exist either, fantastic. Instead, the federal government tries to shade around the edges, just like they shade around the edges of the Fourth Amendment, where they say things like, well, you have to get a warrant, but obviously there are some exceptions. And in that way, with all the exceptions, we can basically work into the point where we have negated your rights. My issue has always been that I despise the federal government. It's one of the reasons why I was actually kind of like a useful employee to be there. You should have an entire federal government of people that don't like it. And I'm going to give you the concrete example from something in pop culture. Ron Swanson, Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation was a show that made fun of the deficiencies and the ineffective nature of local governance, which is still infinitely more responsive to the average human being. And the best character in that show, bar none, hands down. It made fun of the woman that they were trying to act like was the hero, the woman who was so full of enthusiasm, the blonde lady running around trying to make government do all the things that government does. The hero was Ron Swanson because he was sort of a libertarian type. He was an actual conservative. You know what he loved? Bacon. Do you know what he stashed in his office in vaults? Bacon. How interesting. Whenever he went somewhere, he said, I'll take all the bacon you have. The reason why Ron Swanson was so popular, by the way, they were trying to lampoon the sort of like stodgy conservatives that hate government. And all they ended up doing is pointing out that that guy was the funniest, he was right, and everyone liked him because regular Americans don't like being screwed with by their government. And it turns out there's something to be said about women in government and men in government. And this is actually a balance that Parks and Rec makes out. The enthusiastic, feminine instinct to go out there and get in everyone's business and try to solve problems that you have no business getting involved in is a feminine instinct, whether it's women or not. So there's something about that. And it turns out Ron Swanson is a mustache-wearing, doesn't look like he's from that current time, throwback, and everybody loves it. And that's part of the reason. That's part of the thing that nobody was paying attention to when they were making that show. They realized he was the best character, but they didn't understand that they were laughing with Ron Swanson and not at him. This is a woman on British television telling you something. It's one thing to be a subject of Britain, to fall underneath the influence of the United Kingdom and to be a British citizen. It's quite another to be English. These words have specific meanings. This woman actually concerns me because she's saying the same kind of things that even the Republican Party has sort of taken on in this country. And this is not a bigoted, xenophobic sort of thing. This is an acknowledgement that certain words have meanings, that there is a historical context that we're all supposed to be part of, and you can become American as long as you actually join the dominant culture. Listen to this woman tell you that she thinks she's English, and then we'll talk about what the word English actually means. And I think it actually applies very, very specifically to this country, because we did come out of that one.
What you set out today, you say, is a Labour immigration policy. And it means, in your mind, that people like your parents who play by the rules can find a home in this country, and that their children can, and this is an interesting word, their children can unthinkingly call themselves English. Do you personally, without reservation or hesitation, call yourself English?
Yes. That's why I put that in the speech, because it's never occurred to me that I'm not. I very much identify with being somebody who's a Brummie. I think Birmingham is one of the best of the English cities, and I consider myself English as well as British as well. I know that sometimes people use English to mean slightly different things, but for me, my identity being someone who's born and lived in England all my life, that's who I am.
So, in minority homes, generally speaking, English usually means white. From your point of view, you've gone past that. I think
definitely when I was younger, everybody would have said if you're saying someone is English, what you really mean is they're white. I think that is a little bit less true today, as more of us are settled in England. As you've seen the rise of sort of Scottish civic identity and Welsh civic identity. If England were playing Scotland in a football match, I know who I'm supporting. I wouldn't even think twice about supporting anyone other than England.
And if they're playing Pakistan at cricket?
Exactly the same. England all the way. So because of that, I think over the last few years, you've seen more of a sense of confidence amongst minority communities to consider themselves English, but also I think...
Yeah, you see more of a confidence to be able to say things that are not true, and then everyone has to agree with them because that's the polite thing to do. That woman's name is Shabana Mahmood. I'm not making that up. She's the British Home Secretary. She's a Brit, clearly. But she's not English. Because English actually means something. Didn't you just hear her say things about Scottish identity and so on and so forth? There's a reason why. Read this. This is an AI overview, but this is something that is not even debated by the most left-leaning sources like AI coming out of Google's Gemini. The English are a nation and an ethnic group native to England. Oh, right? That's the difference between what happens in England and what happens in America. You can become American, but you really do have to buy into, what do they say here? Oh, it's very simple. They share a common history, culture, and language. Those are the critical things. History, culture, and language. And by the way, to be English means you can tie your identity to the Germanic tribes that settled in Britain in the 5th century AD. That's 1,500 years of history that this woman wants to wipe out by being born in Birmingham. That's pretty wild to say that I can unapologetically assign myself an identity that I don't have because I just redefine the terms. The name English derives from the Angles, a Germanic tribe. The word actually even comes from the people who settled there 1,500 freaking years ago. The identity. While English people are primarily from England, they're also a key part of the British nation. Oh, the nation is Britain, or the United Kingdom, making them citizens of the United Kingdom. When we start splashing words around and we don't actually think about them in any meaningful way, it turns out Donald Trump actually knew that. And for those of us that were sitting here and looking at him as an option in 2024, some of the things he said were really important. Like they got in and immediately redefined what we call birthright citizenship. This is a massive problem in this country, and it's going to be a continued problem because you can be American, which is a unique thing anywhere in the world, that you can move here. You can jump into the way that we look at the world. You can join our worldview. You can join our culture. You can join in on our history, and you can make it your own. You have to actually join our language. All of these things have to happen for you to be American. And then your skin color is irrelevant. And it turns out once you've been here for a generation or two, we look at you like anybody else. I've got friends that are Hispanic. It doesn't matter. I have friends that are Asian that moved here from different parts of Asia. They've moved here from, let's say, Taiwan. They own guns and they think the way that I do. They've adopted the heritage. They want to be, they cling to and they cleave to what is American. They're bacon cheeseburger nationalists as much as you are. And then there's people that don't. There's people that don't get it. And they think that our job is to go ahead and make room for them so that we can be not a melting pot where we blend all the things. We take some of your flavor and it's like, okay, cool. Now we've made pizza part of the American national dish. Spaghetti is an American dish now for some reason. I don't know why. When you start doing things like the Brits have done, where they do like curry for Christmas, it's very strange. I'm going to show you what is not bacon cheeseburger national. I wasn't going to do this, but I am going to do this because this is what makes sense to me. I got to search it up. I keep this. I keep this here. Somebody said, this is a woman singing in a temple. No, this is a woman singing at a political conference for the RNC. And this just happened within the last couple years, before Donald Trump was just reelected. Here's the Associate Attorney General of the United States. If you haven't heard, she's not a bacon cheeseburger nationalist. Here's my proof.
Thank you, everyone. These last 48 hours have been some of the most intense, yet most prayerful of our lives. The heinous attack on President Trump and his supporters made all of us pause and seek answers and comfort. I come from a family of Sikh immigrants. I am honored to share with you, my fellow Republicans and guests tonight, a prayer from my faith tradition practiced by over 25 million worldwide. We recite the Ardas prayer before any new endeavor, giving thanks to God and asking for his protection and help to uphold the values of humility, truth, courage, service, and justice for all.
Yeah, that's not an American thing. So thanks so much for that. 25 million worldwide is a negligible amount of people. And for those of you that are in the chat saying don't do it, here it comes.
To show respect, we cover our heads when we pray.
Who is this we? All right. Now we're going to put on this curtain thing. It's a very nice veil. And let's do some atonal singing.
Tu thakar tum pe ardas jiyo pind sab teri ras tum mat pita hum barak tere tumri kirpa main sukh knere कोई न जाने तुम्हारा अंत ऊंचे ते ऊंचा भगवंत सगल समगरी तुमरे सूत्रधारी तुम ते होए सो आज्ञाकारी तुम्हारी गत मित तुम ही जानी नानक दास
Shakataya lataya tikata, not bad from 10 yards. There's the target at 10 yards that everyone around her was killed because the shooting is not so good. Okay. I had a point with this. It's not just about this. It's about bringing people that are charlatans into a allegedly conservative regime. You guys all thought that you were getting a conservative president. And the reason you thought that was this really silly thing called the Agenda 47. Agenda 47 was Donald Trump's core promises to make America great again. To make America great again, you'd have to look backwards to when America was great. And there was a time, there's no question in my mind. You can call it the 90s, you could call it the 80s, you could call it the 1950s, you could call it the 1890s. That might have been okay too. If we could have rolled it back to pre-1913, we'd be in great shape. Pre-1908, we'd be in good shape. By the way, that would have eliminated things like universal suffrage. Turns out that was actually a feature. It's not a bug in the system. There's plenty of people who make absolutely atrocious decisions that probably shouldn't be voting. Turns out. Maybe then our vote would actually mean something. It turns out that we weren't supposed to vote away things like the federal government's inability to tax us directly. And when you gave it to them, it had a predictable result, which is that the federal government became the most dominant force when it was never meant to be. That's your 16th Amendment. How about the fact that we broke our government and it no longer works? Period. It does not work. It's using a tool as it was not designed. It's like, oh, well, I had the screwdriver and then I just chopped off the part that had either the flathead or the Phillips head on it. And now I just grab that piece of metal and I use that to bang stuff in. It's a really crappy hammer, though. I don't know why this hammer that I've created from a screwdriver is not a good hammer. It's like, well, the weight and the leverage are all off and it's actually not the sort of striking surface it was meant to have. And you're like, yeah, but why doesn't it work as a good hammer? Because you broke the tool. We broke our government when we did the 17th Amendment and we did something called the direct election of senators. I'm going to keep harping on this because everybody who sits there and cries about, well, it's spending or it's this or it's short-term pain and the long-term gain, and we got to do this. When you start looking at the ridiculous nature of all this sort of like little sort of quabbly fixes, they're trying to figure out if they can properly balance things at the top of a broken scaffolding that doesn't have any support structure underneath it. Our government was designed to have two houses, one representing the people, the masses, the rabble, the democratic sort of inklings, and the other one was meant to represent the states, which had multiple filters before it got there. Your senators were supposed to be appointed by your state governments to go out there and represent the interests of your state. It was supposed to distill the instincts of your state and then look out for the instincts of your state, not the individual people who may or may not change their mind every 15 seconds like Mark Levin. We broke it. We had 20 core promises. They included things like sealing the border, carrying out the largest deportation operation of who? Oh, people who are not from this country that have no right to be in this country. There is a lead story at ABC right now crying about people who came here illegally from Venezuela, were able to use the broken governmental system that we have to go out there and claim asylum. The Biden administration granted it to them. And then when Donald Trump got in and they were detained for 2 months trying to ascertain who the hell they were and what they were doing, they lost their apartment. It is a front page news story on one of the major American news outlets, crying about a family from Las Cruces that had no right to be here. And again, what could they have done? They could have taken a plane trip back to where they came from, gotten $2,600 cash from our pockets, by the way, and been able to restart their life, but now they have nothing, and they're crying about it. They could have self-deported, but they got themselves like wrapped up in something. To complain about what happened under Obama or under Trump right now or all this stuff, like nobody is looking at this and saying, okay, you want to make America great again, you need to fix the underlying problems that go back however far they go back. They fixed a couple of them accidentally with the Supreme Court decision that overruled the Chevron deference. But in 1946, Congress broke itself. What's funny is not only did we break the Senate, we broke the House. And they did it before many of you were born. And for those of you that were born, very few of you, if any, were old enough to be able to vote on it and put it represented in. In 1946, we said the executive needs to be the most powerful because we're too lazy to do the job of Congress. It's hard work being a legislator. We don't want to do that. We'd like to just give broad strokes, throw money at the problem, say sort of platitudes and run for office and allow the executive to run wild. And that's what they did. And they're going to write laws that are actually just rules with the force of law. And guess what we right now have? We have an attorney general who shoots like crap. Sorry, an associate attorney general who's out there claiming that they're doing a wonderful job. And what are they doing it about? They're practicing form and accuracy to let you know the Second Amendment is great while defending laws that infringe. And those laws are not laws. They're rules that were created by the ATF. There's an advise and consent period, and then they go out there and infringe on us. It's freaking nauseating, people. And when I say that there shouldn't be universal suffrage, I'm going to give you the reason why I think that. The reason I think that is because there are people that are advising our current president, and the people sound like this. They look crazy, and they sound crazier. And not only does this woman exist, but people give her money. If you're a person that goes to an evangelical church with a charlatan like this lady, Paula White, who is an advisor to Donald Trump, and I don't have a problem with her taking money from people because people are always going to be opportunistic. I have a problem that there are Americans and I have to share a vote with them, allegedly, that my vote supposedly means something, and they have the same exact say that I do, and they give money to this person. Here she is, maybe talking about military strikes, maybe talking about a drought in Africa, maybe doing a remix of the Toto song. I guess the rains are down in Africa. I don't know what she's doing, but it's every bit as bad as the demon singing that was going at the RNC, and it's every bit as bad as claiming things are English when you're not English. This is just a crazy person. The fact that people listen to it makes it worse.
Strike and strike and strike and strike and strike and strike until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground, for you will give us victory, God. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of shouting and singing. I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of an abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory.
There's a chant that's a lot like this when you're at Sears school. They play this in your ears while you're standing in the dark.
It is done. The Lord says it is done.
Just repeat after me.
The Lord says it is done.
Okay.
For I hear victory,
Are we running out of words? I feel like we're going to get
in the quarters of heaven. In
Let's
the
do
quarters
gibberish.
of heaven. Victory, 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 victory. For angels are being released right now.
Now we're doing
angels
angels.
are being dispatched right now. Hamanda ata ata
There it is.
raka teda baka sanda ata ambo osa kata rite eke banda ata rike didi ashata. For angels have even been dispatched from Africa right now. Africa right now. Africa right now. From Africa right now.
Someone needs to tap her on the back. She's stuck in a loop. She's like one of those people. I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with some people who are mentally ill, but sometimes they'll just like shake and rock and say the same thing over and over again. Sometimes if people are having like a really bad mushrooms experience, they'll do that where they just keep repeating the same words over. You can get them out of it sometimes with a strike to the back. Someone needs to smack this woman on the back like a choking child.
They're coming here. They're coming here. In the
Who is?
name of Jesus from South America. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. From Africa, from South America. Angelic forces, angelic reinforcement, angelic reinforcement, angelic reinforcement. Pika hata anda ata ora bata rata anda eke eke manda rasa.
I'm just letting this run
For I
because
hear the sound of victory. I hear the sound of victory. I hear the sound of victory.
all right, I also heard the sound of victory. So listen, I don't know what those incantations mean. Neither do you. They might as well be prayers to a demon god in India somewhere. There's also a random man with like a towel over his arm that's just walking back and forth on the stage. Guys, this person has direct access to your president. She was standing in the White House the other day, quote unquote, praying with hands on over the top of Donald Trump while he's out there prosecuting a war in Iran, which we're not going to call a war. I don't know what that is. I don't know how we get these people around there, but whether you're doing some prayers to a demon god that's in another country and that people from another culture believe in, or whether you're this lady who's bastardizing, like doing the most bastardized version of Christianity and this fake, they call it speaking in tongues. There's nothing tongues about that. That's gibberish. The gift of tongues, for those of you who don't know what that is, if you're not a Christian and you don't understand what Pentecost was all about, men were able to speak and everyone was able to hear them in their native tongue. That was the gift of tongues. It was to speak without knowing the language, and those who were listening could hear it. So it's an interpretive gift. It's not somebody randomly just running their mouth hole in weird shapes and creating little forms with their tongue that are not English words. But that's what you got here. It's kind of a big deal. Because when you have this kind of stuff out there, when you have this kind of person gathering hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations, she has a net worth over 5 million. She apparently travels around in a private jet. That tells me there's a lot of dumb people that are willing to give money to this psycho crazy person who looks like she's having some sort of psychotic break with reality. We're going to give money to that. It's no wonder you get people cheering on a woman who can't shoot, claiming she's defending the Second Amendment, when in fact they are actually going after the Second Amendment. And they are defending infringements against your own freedom and liberty. It's craziness. It really is. There's no other way to describe it. I'm going to talk about my friends over at Patriot Protect. If you guys want to insulate yourself against people that are scamming you, that you're not giving your own money to freely, because there's plenty of people that are doing scams like this. This is like a self opt-in. Maybe you didn't opt in for the scam. Maybe you're just someone who's being targeted because AI is out there grabbing all your stuff. Well, maybe you want to fix that. And you can sign up with Patriot Protect. This is a voluntary transaction you can make. Make a good decision on it. This is the one that we use. It's less than $100 a year for their basic service to be able to get your name out of the systems that are exploiting you. Paula White will ask you for $100,000. You should write her a check for that. Or you could write less than a $100 check and you can get yourself sort of out of the systems where TurboTax and Google and Amazon and Microsoft, Meta, Apple, banks, insurance companies, et cetera, credit bureaus, retailers, data firms are using AI to try to figure out who you are and what you're about, and then they get hacked and they get leaked, and you end up on data broker and people search websites that allow scammers to find you as well. Then they get to take advantage of all that information that has been collected. If you guys don't want to have that happen, check out my friends at Patriot Protect. It's Patriot-Protect. Don't forget the dash in between them, .com/KYLE, Patriot-Protect.com/Kyle. Link in the show description here. These AI systems that are getting hacked, they are building up complex and very useful profiles. And then when they get scammed or leaked, or maybe they're building them on their own, Patriot Protect is the one that's kind of keeping you out of these data broker websites where people are trolling through, finding out who the good targets are. And then they go out there and they send you fake emails. They'll give you phone calls. Maybe they're out there spamming the Kyle Seraphin show over on Rumble, which we've seen some of that as well, where they're giving you phone numbers and they're trying to do some crypto garbage, get you to send them gift cards or open up a wallet. If you don't want to even be messing with it, you don't want to worry about it, you just want to be not a target, get yourself off there. And for all you that have any business that you do with anybody that's online, which is all of us, basically, unless you're, you can't really even be watching this if you don't have that. You guys are a potential target. So check them out. Link in the show description. Support the sponsors when you guys have the ability to. Let's do a little bit why I think this is a problem. The question is if we've got people that are saying crazy things that are clearly not true, then maybe you'll believe anything. If you think that it's conservative to be part of a Sikh religion and you work out of California and you think that it's totally acceptable to regulate the type and the style of guns, like you heard Janine Pirro say, if you come to DC with the wrong piece of paper, then don't worry about what the Second Amendment says because we're going to prosecute you because you're the problem. There's nothing conservative about these people. Then maybe you will also believe that war is not actually war. I've got this little clip from Reason TV. This is the same group that brought us the People Will Die song, which I love. I think this is the same sort of energy. We should get on track with the fact that war is not war in America. A lot of that comes down to the fact that Congress has ceded their authorities and their power. And this goes back before the War Powers Act of 73, and it predates that 1943 decision. It came when the federal government became the most salient governmental structure in the United States. When the federal government eclipsed the power of the states, we started having the first imbalance and the tool was broken. And so now we don't have war. We just have funny names for war. They might as well be gibberish. Here you go.
Welcome back to Is It War? World War I.
War.
Correct. World War II.
War.
Correct. The Vietnam War.
War.
Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. That was a congressionally authorized counteroffensive. Don't worry, we get right back on track with the Korean War.
War.
No, that was police action.
No, they had tanks and stuff.
Well, the police have tanks now, don't they, Carl? Okay, the First and Second Iraq War.
War.
They identify as military action. It's a bit like pronouns, except we kill people. All right, how about Libya?
War.
I'm sorry, that was kinetic action, not a war. Venezuela.
Well, it was an act of war, I think.
No, I'm sorry, that was a law enforcement operation, not a war. Iran.
It's a war. We're doing war things.
No, not war things. Preemptive retaliatory de-escalation action.
No, that's not a thing.
All right, judges. Okay, how about the war on terrorism?
War.
No, it was a coalition-led conditional operation. How about Afghanistan?
Afghanistan was the war on terror.
No, I'm sorry, that was a pre-authorized defense stabilization initiative.
Okay, can somebody tell me the rules here?
War on poverty, Carl.
Well, poverty, that's not even a thing.
I'm sorry, I hate to do this to you. It was a trick question. We don't have poverty in the United States. The Dow went up to 50,000. Couldn't even get that high. Amazing. Don't even worry about the Epstein files. War on Christmas.
The coffee cup thing? No, that's not a war.
It is a war for the soul of the nation and whether or not I can wish my children Merry Christmas.
Okay, you know what? I quit. I don't want to do this anymore.
Today's magical phrase, Carl, you just became a United States Congressman. Congratulations, Representative Carl. Merry Christmas.
It's March.
Well, okay, happy Hanukkah.
How about that? Does that make some sense? It's pretty funny. It's pretty sad, too. When we can go ahead and play around on the meanings of words that are really simple, like waging war, like doing acts of war, when we can cede these authorities to people that don't want to seriously get involved, and then I don't want to do this anymore means you get to be a congressman? How funny. All right. Some of this stuff was inspired by what I saw over the weekend from our AAG, and also from the ultra MAGA crowd, which are the political influencers that go out and tell people what to think. I don't know why you've outsourced your opinions to this man, but people have. We're going to cover Mark Levin crapping down the throats of anybody that doesn't agree with him, which is what he does. Then we're going to go on a little historical tour of what men like that say. And then we're going to go talk about what his buddy, another friend in war, which is not war, Lindsey Graham has to say. And we're going to walk through kind of this thing, and then we'll kind of end up with talking about Kristi Noem, who was removed. She's decided to go out and talk about why she was removed. She is super excited now that she's part of a special envoy to the Shield of America, which was created so that she didn't have to be fired. But that's what happens when you spend $250 million on videos and then claim that Donald Trump said that he was okay with it. He very well may have been okay with it. He very well may have said he was okay with it. But she engaged in the cardinal crime, the cardinal sin of saying, Donald Trump knew about me spending things wastefully. You're supposed to always not do that. That's the opposite of knob slobbery. Honesty or accuracy and saying that the boss did something screwy. You're not supposed to do that. It always has to be turned up to 11 or maybe even a 15. Here's Mark Levin letting you know that 92% of the people that support Donald Trump. 92% of the people who claim that they are Donald Trump supporters agree with themselves that they support Donald Trump. That's literally what's being said here. What they've forgotten about is there's some of us here who say, yeah, just because I voted for the man doesn't mean that my undying loyalty and fealty goes to him. Just because he was better than the alternative, just because it means my friend Steve Baker doesn't go to prison, that Owen Schroyer gets a pardon, saying things like that doesn't mean that I've like signed my life away and now this man thinks for me. It's interesting because this guy was a never Trumper in the beginning. If you guys recall, here's Mark Levin saying things about how the MAGA movement is not divided. Maybe not, but it's getting smaller. That's what he forgets to bring out.
Polling? Seriously? Okay, I got a poll for you. The latest poll shows that 92% of MAGA supports the President of the United States. These articles of MAGA split. MAGA's not split. You got a couple nut jobs who are not MAGA, or like neo-fascists out there. They have their own little audiences that apparently don't represent anybody. So I wouldn't sweat that media. MAGA's not split. We're behind the President of the United States. And I want to get quickly to...
Oh, good. That little audience he's talking about are people like Candace Owens, who I think is a little bit nutty, but so be it. Tucker Carlson, hard to say that's a small audience. He's mad at Alex Jones. He's mad at Owen Schroyer. Apparently they're mad at me. I made it into the list of the people that the Dilly meme team was saying, these are the traitors that are disloyal to Donald Trump. Newsflash, go out there and find the evidence. I've never been loyal to anybody as a politician. I don't like politicians as a general rule. I don't like our federal government. If the choice was eliminate it down to the core functions and deal with the proposition or deal with government from the proposition that it is the worst solution to every problem, including when it's the only solution, that's my answer, which is a lot more like libertarianism. Anyway, who is this guy that was saying that? That guy. That was Mark Levin. It's not like there's any evidence of him saying, I'm never voting for Donald Trump. Count me as a never Trumper, right? There he is in Breitbart. Now, granted, this goes back to 2016. This was during the primary before Donald Trump was elected the first time. The thing that we find out about these guys is none of them have any principles at all. Zero. It's pretty interesting that Mark Levin lifted an entire article and put it as a chapter in his book, an article that I wrote, and then he went out there and blamed Democrats. And the reality of the piece that I wrote is that the animal known as the FBI, which is a broader piece of the DOJ. It's the targeted action group that goes on in the DOJ, is dangerous in and of itself. It doesn't matter who's in charge. If you guys think that there's a Trump FBI or a Trump DOJ, the evidence is overwhelmingly that is not the case. The line prosecutors are still running a case against Brian Cole Jr. Why? A guy that they're accusing of being the pipe bomber, despite so many inconsistencies that they must be out of their damn minds. And there's more pieces about that are being covered by my buddy Steve Baker and the Joe Hanneman over at Blaze. For as long as they're there, for as long as Blaze exists, we're talking about people that have no principle. We're talking about government institutions that serve themselves. This is the overwhelming principle that I run a podcast discussing, and I can show you evidence of it every single day. The crazy thing is that we just have these people that are acting like they're somehow, they're cheerleaders, but they're not even sure who their team is until the team gets told. They're not cheerleaders that are like assigned to a team. They're assigned to whoever's winning at that moment, and then they go and they jump in. There's Mark Levin. Again, there's more than one article about this. Since then, he was also out there. What is the other one? He defended Ted Cruz, said Ted Cruz was this guy. Well, why is that? Because Ted Cruz is a lot like Lindsey Graham. There's senators that think that Israel is the most important thing to talk about. And I'm not saying that. They're freaking saying it. It is the weirdest thing in the world. It's weird to say that you're a person from Pakistan and you now associate yourself with being an Englishman, even though there's no chance that you can be. It's weird to say that you're a conservative when there's nothing conservative about you and you've been divorced twice. By the way, that's Harmeet Dillon, twice divorced and then widowed. It's weird to be an American politician talking about any other country outside of being an American. Is it not absurd to think that if you had your congressperson got up and spoke every single week and said, we stand with the people of Greece and the interests of Greece are the interests of America, you'd be like, wait, what? Why is it important what happens in Greece? Like, I don't even know a single person in Greece. I have one friend who has Greek origins, and he doesn't care about Greece that much. He's got family there, and he's not interested in it. Why the hell are you interested in it? What if they were out there talking about Nigeria or Somalia like some of these people have? What is it about these weird politicians going out and saying things and identifying themselves as representatives, either as an ambassador or an elected position, that they are going to hold some other country's well-being above our own, or even close to on par with it, as though it's actually a talking point? This is Ted Cruz, who, by the way, Mark Levin wanted to be president initially, talking about Israel, because this is one of those like AIPAC videos that comes out. And I've got a bunch of these things. They don't make any sense. It's not that I care one way or another about Israel. If you guys go back, you can find any time that I've ever brought this thing up, because it is just pervasive at this point. Why? Oh, because we're in a not war with Israel as our ally, fighting against a regime that we're not trying to do regime changes, even though we targeted and killed off all the people in the regime. No, I'm interested because it's so strange how many of these people have it as the top of mind awareness. How many of these guys have a flag outside of their freaking office from not our country? It turns out it's more than one U.S. congressperson. It's more than one U.S. senator. And there's only 100 of them.
Today, more than ever before, the U.S.-Israel alliance and friendship is under assault. It's under assault from forces in the United States that would try to break that friendship. I think that's profoundly dangerous. America is friends with Israel because it is unambiguously in America's national security interest to be friends with Israel. Israel is fighting the enemies of America. Every Hamas terrorist that Israel kills, every Hezbollah terrorist, every IRGC terrorist makes America safer. We stand with Israel because standing with Israel makes Americans safer. And when the Ayatollah chants death to Israel and death to America, he means it. And those voices in American politics that want to engage in appeasement are profoundly undermining U.S. national security.
I don't think anybody wants to engage in appeasement. I mean, there are people on the left that want to do that. I'm not part of them either. They want to send pallets of cash out there and try and buy them off. But I'm just saying, why do you keep saying it's safer? Is there any evidence of any attacks domestically by Iranian terrorists? That's what they should have led with. Like, look, these terrorist attacks took place and they were inspired by, they were financed by, they were trained by people in Iran. Oh, it's only happening overseas where I'm not? Oh, it's only something that has nothing to do with this country? What a weird moment. You know it's a bad time when the wacko ladies at Code Pink say something that I really agree with. You guys know what Code Pink was? These are like these screeching cat ladies, with barren uteruses that are running around in the Capitol dressed up in some way, and they're screaming about different things that they're upset about. They're uber libs, uber leftist weirdos. And then it turns out they go and they ask some questions, and you're like, lady's got a point. Why? Why can I say that? Oh, because I don't have a team. My team is bacon cheeseburger nationalism. I don't think these ladies fall into it. But guess what? If you align with my principles temporarily, I can note that you're saying the right thing when you're saying the right thing. And here they are, bringing up this weird question. We have a biblical is there a biblical requirement that America does this thing? A war action that's not a war action? By the way, remember, it's not a war. We're going to play some more clips that show that. Wait, Code Pink, ladies and gentlemen.
Listen. The United States and Israel are ironclad partners. We need them in the Middle East. We need them to be strong. We have a biblical responsibility to them as well as an allied responsibility to Israel. We should never sever that relationship, particularly to the benefit of killers like Iran.
Well, is that your office? Is that the flag right there?
This guy says we have a biblical responsibility to Israel. And here he is, a U.S. senator with an Israeli flag outside his office. So,
Kevin Cramer.
Senator Kevin Cramer, what the F? Are you representing the interests of the U.S. where the vast majority of the American public don't want a war with Iran? Or you're representing Israel because we have a biblical obligation?
Donald Trump and I believe that America ought to be tough and America ought to have a strong foreign policy. But when people like Kamala Harris send our sons and daughters, our young people, to fight in stupid wars, it is the young generation that carries the burden of that. We're going to stop sending our young people to faraway lands. We are not the policemen of the world. We need to use our young people here at home.
August 14th, 2024, J.D. Vance on the campaign trail. Listen, if part of the agenda that was floated out there was, let's get after it. Let's stop Iran. We're going to go and destroy certain things in the Middle East that need to be destroyed. Then great. It just turns out that it wasn't. It wasn't in the top 10, and it wasn't in the top 20 core promises. In fact, the opposite of that was prevent World War III, restore peace in the Middle East. I'm not sure that you restore peace in the Middle East by preemptively bombing someone to be able to stop them from doing something that they weren't going to do unless Israel got involved. For all these people with the ironclad relationships with Israel, that's not the case, guys. Just go back and listen to what George Hill and I were talking about. It's very clear from anybody who's worked in the counterintelligence space that there are numerous cases against the Israelis. There are times when they align with our interests. I don't think they control America. I do think that people in America probably control what they're about, and their interests then control what the United States is about. It's a really good pass-through. If you guys think that someone like Jeffrey Epstein was a cutout, the odds are is that you can also use nations that way. You leverage certain nations. You give them certain amounts of money and capabilities. You allow certain behaviors that you wouldn't otherwise. You know, like maybe like engaging with underage prostitutes or whatever the heck that was. You can allow people to do things that are immoral, illegal, unethical, as long as it like benefits you. That's operational morality. That's not a particularly Christian perspective, but people do that. People that have a lot of money are able to do that if they have no principle whatsoever. If their principle is serving their own interests, it's far more likely to me that people are using Israel as a tool to be able to come in. But it's pretty amazing when you see these people, really. You guys can't hear this, but the Harmeet Dillon shooting video just like out of nowhere just started shooting. So I just got gunshots in my ear. That's really weird. Nothing like derailing your thought with somebody firing guns in your right ear. Very simply, you can use all kinds of cutouts if you want to achieve, and if you have no sort of moral qualms with how you do it. Israel has been at best a frenemy, but is in fact like an actual enemy a lot of times. Is going out there and working against U.S. interests on a regular basis. Just saying. All right. What's the talking points coming in right now? Surely somebody has some sort of excuse for why the way we're acting this way. Why? Because no pain, no gain. The talking points have been marched out, just like we like to play those, just like we like to play the leftists who would get this one little thing, they'd go out and march, and every single person on every single news channel would say the same words. The right does it as well. If you're looking for evidence that political theater happens on both sides of the coin, this is it. This talking point obviously went out. Here's all the Fox News types saying exactly the same things, whether they be politicians or whether they be people in the mainstream media. They're all giving you the same spiel. Why would that be? Oh, because if you repeat it enough time, then you end up believing it. We've covered this going back into the Biden era. This was a tool used by them. This is called the illusory truth effect. And the illusory truth effect is a psychological principle that when something has been repeated enough times, it's not that if you repeat the lie enough times, you believe it to be the truth. It's that you don't know that it's not true. Your brain goes back to something that it recalls hearing. It doesn't remember the context. And then you just go, aha, I heard this many times from places that may have been authoritative. I have the illusion that it is in fact true, even when it's not. And there's plenty of examples of things that have been repeated that are not true, and yet people believe them. We all have those things. George Washington had wooden teeth. Maybe we'll play a palate cleanser about that because that's actually kind of funny. There's all these little weird things that we have that are sort of apocryphal stories, or they are just nonsense, but they were told over and over again and we believe it. Here's some illusory truth. Short-term pain, long-term gain. That's why we're in Iran right now.
This is a short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain be for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Short-term pay for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain. Short-term spike for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers.
We may have to deal with that in the short term.
Short-term and temporary.
Temporary short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain.
Short-term pain. We have to focus on the short term.
Short-term.
Short-term. Short-term. Short-term and long-term.
Short-term.
Hopefully this is a short-term pain. Short-term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefits.
Some short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain.
Oh, right. So It's not like everyone's just reading off the same sheet of talking points, right? You guys have sometimes seen these on social media when they accidentally get leaked. Somebody sends out this thing, is like, here's what we're trying to argue, and here's how we're going to do it. This is what we want repeated. And then everybody says the same thing. So is it any worse when you see CNN and ABC and NBC and CBS and MSN Now or MS Now, whatever the hell they're called right now, all doing that? Is it not the same thing when you see the folks over on all the different Fox channels doing it, and there's multiple different Fox, or you see different radio hosts saying the same exact thing, or podcasters doing the same thing that are coming from the political right? That's fake. That's what fake news was. This is not fake news. Frustrations at the gas station as fuel prices continue to climb. Oh, well, that was people getting really, really pissed off. Except if you guys can see in the tiny print on here, and you're seeing diesel at almost $6 a gallon, this was in Michigan in June of 2022. How many of you were rightly looking at it and saying, this is problematic, that we now have a government that is doing stupid things and they are costing us a shootload of money? My diesel truck has a 36-gallon fuel tank, and there's nothing exceptional about it. It's a Ford F-250, okay? It's just a regular truck that people do work in every single day. And I filled up my gas tank less than 10 days ago for $3.09 a gallon. And when I drove by on Sunday night, the gas or the diesel prices were $4.49, and I expect that they'll continue to go up. How do I know that? Oh, because the fuel markets and the futures markets for oil are shockingly high. They've gone up 60% in the last month, another 45% over the course of the last 5 days. We're talking about a significant cost. Whenever the supply of oil anywhere is being taken up, then you end up finding out that it affects us everywhere. Even though America theoretically could be closer to oil independence and we buy very minimal of it from the Middle East, there's pressure on it. That means there's also people willing to buy it from other places. Oil companies are like everyone else. They want to make money. They want to sell it for the most amount of money. So driving up the global market still drives up the local market. The crazy thing is that all the oil and the gas, it's actually in the ground. If you guys ever watch these pumping facilities, it's not like they fill up every single day. So it's not like they're actually paying the rate of that oil. That oil was coming in on a tanker, and then it went through a refinery, and then it went into an oil truck, then it went to a distribution center, then it went out and made it out to your gas station. It took a little bit of time. So it's already less expensive, but that's not how these things get charged. And they're seeing an opportunity to be able to make money on it, and people are going to pay it. It's $50 more per fuel tank for my truck to fill up than it was 2 weeks ago. $50. Now, luckily, I don't drive that much and I work from right here. But guys, every single thing that you own in your home, nearly every single thing, unless you're growing it, it was from somewhere else, transported to you on a diesel truck. So what do you think a 200-gallon fuel tank that's going to be at $1.50 more a gallon, and that's in Texas where it's cheap? We have cheaper oil than almost everywhere. Maybe Oklahoma is the exception. It's more expensive in Florida. It's certainly more expensive in Virginia and New York. It's way more expensive in California and Washington and Oregon. And by the way, they overly tax that. You want to talk about federal problems? How about this? Did you guys know that there's 32% more excise taxes on diesel than there are on gasoline per gallon? Why? Oh, because they can charge it. That's what happens. Those are federal only. And then there's state taxes on top of it. And maybe your county has a tax. So guys, we're paying a ton of money for transportation, for logistics, and it may not be expensive today, but you're going to see every price go up. Everything from lumber, which gets transported that way. You're going to see groceries move that way. There's all kinds of petroleum products that are involved in farming and agriculture and in ranching. They're running big trucks and big pieces of equipment. None of this stuff is as a short-term pain, long-term gain. What's the gain? Americans just need to tuck in. So here you go. And stop worrying about oil prices. That's what we're told. This congressman comes from Missouri. I looked him up earlier. His name's Altman. He's got a son who's a performance artist. No further information on that. You can see my Twitter feed if you want to see it.
I think we all know that when you have a kinetic conflict like this, whether you want to call it a war or not, we are putting energy, resources, money into this. It is going to take a little bit of sacrifice on the part of Americans. There is a political component to this. We have the midterms coming up. Yeah. The Democrats have tried to make it about affordability. That will certainly play into that. But I think the average American in my district understands the need that we decapitate this terrorist regime and make sure it never grows ahead again.
And Congress.
Wait, that sounds like we're doing regime change, decapitation strikes for regime change. Apparently, affordability is just a Democrat talking point, right? Is that what you guys know? I hate to go back to the chart where I can grade someone based on their own words. I hate to listen to what J.D. Vance said, where he said we're not going to send our sons and daughters to die in the Middle East again and bring them home from foreign wars. I hate to look at thing number 3 on Donald Trump's core promises in Agenda 47. Number 3, the biggest one, A+, seal the border, stop the invasion. Number 2, dramatic failure, largest deportation operation in America, you get a C-. They deported some people, they can't get everybody, they can't get buy-in, and they're claiming self-deportations for success. You guys think that's going to go up, the self-deportations? Maybe, I guess if the diesel prices keep going up, maybe that's a thing. Thing number 3, end inflation, make America affordable again. If someone is going to evaluate you at the midterms and decide, hey, did you keep any of your freaking promises? You think they're going to skip over number 3 when gas prices go up $1.50 in a few days? When they go up 42 to 50% in a week and a half? Make America affordable again. That's a talking point for Democrats. Anyway, Donald Trump, he didn't ever talk about gas prices, right? He didn't actually go out there and campaign about gas prices specifically, did he?
I will unleash energy independence and we will bring the price of gasoline down immediately. So we're going to get your gas prices down and we will, ready? Drill, baby, drill. Going to get your energy way down. You're going to spend a lot less money for your gasoline. You have that special stuff. We will unleash American energy and bring prices way down fast.
And the Lord says he thrust you suddenly.
We're going to fix the gas prices. Here we go. Watch. Let's see if we can get them down. This is Americans not falling for it. Not falling for it. She really wants her to fall, though. Fall back. Fall back. Nope, not going to fall back. Hands up. Hands up. Backing up. Jumping in high heels.
Let it be unlocked. Let it be unlocked. Let it be unlocked. Let the prophetic be unlocked. Let it be unlocked. Let it be unlocked. Let it be unlocked.
Okay. It didn't work. You guys ever seen those like faith healings where they like touch somebody's head or they try to like knock them backwards and they fall back and then some guy's standing there to catch them and you're like, aha, look. The power of the spirit knocked him over. What happens if that lady is uber stable? What if it's a stable black lady in a purple dress who backs up and doesn't fall over? It's really hard. It's really hard to get that going. Energy is not good. Anyway, how do you rate your performance so far, Donald Trump?
By the way, in Iran, we're doing very well. Somebody said, how would you score it from 0 to 10? I said, I'd give it a 12 to a 15. Their army is gone. They're just about, look, their Navy is gone. Their communications are gone. Their leaders are gone. 2 sets of their leaders are gone. They're down to their 3rd set. Their Air Force is wiped out entirely. Think of it. They have 32 ships. All 32 are at the bottom of the ocean. Other than that, they're doing very well, Coach. Very well. We're doing, our military is doing phenomenally. That's the big thing for this week. We seem to have a new thing every week, but the situation with a very bad and very sick group of leaders who were killing a lot of people. A lot of our people were being killed. They were being maimed. They were being destroyed with their bombs all over the place, planted in roads, and we call them the roadside bombs, walking around without legs, without arms, face blasted. Killed many, many people. And we had a choice. We could take it and go on like that for years or do something about it. And we did something about it. And people are very impressed with our military and they admire our military with what happened in Venezuela and what's happening now, what's happened with the B-2 bombers before this, where they took out the nuclear capability or potential of Iran. I think we're right now we're a country that's more respected than we've ever been respected before.
All right, good to go. All right, so 15 out of 10, off the chart marks. The Navy is gone. Their nuclear program is gone, which we already did, apparently. We were doing this because of nuclear capabilities, but it was because we already took out their nuclear capabilities because we were going to get the nuclear capabilities and go ahead and eliminate those. But we already did that in Operation Midnight Hammer. So we already got rid of the nuclear capabilities, but we were there again to make sure we got rid of the nuclear capabilities, which had something to do with the short-term ballistic missiles, which we're also wiping out. And we also took out their Navy just as a bonus. And then we weren't doing regime change or decapitation strikes, but we did a decapitation strike, which may or may not have been Israel, but it could have been us. And we got them before they got us. So we got all the bad guys. Are we done here now? We doing a great job. Sounds like we're done. Are we going to be calling that a win? 15 out of 10 is pretty good. I think that means that you're done. Who whispers in this man's ear at night other than Lindsey Graham?
What does the president mean when he calls for unconditional surrender? Is he saying that the regime has to fully relinquish control?
What the president means is that when he, as commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, determines that Iran no longer poses a threat to the United States of America and the goals of Operation Epic Fury has been fully realized, then Iran will essentially be in a place of unconditional surrender. Whether they say it themselves or not, frankly, they don't have a lot of people to say that for them because the United States and the state of Israel have completely wiped out more than 50 leaders of the former terrorist regime, including the supreme leader himself.
Can we just get like a statement of what it is that's trying to be accomplished there? What is we're not going to define what unconditional surrender looks like. We're killing off the people that would otherwise surrender. Like look, at the end of the day, like I can do two things. I can put on one hat. One hat goes teenage American male, which I grew up through that, and it's like, yeah, when we go smash people that need to be smashed, that's pretty epic. I can cheer that on. I think it's awesome. I think our military capabilities are awesome. I've got friends that are still in. I love what they're able to do. Not 100% sure that we should be doing this one, but I think it's cool that they can do it. Same time, how about you articulate why we're not going to have another Iraq? Like how we know that this is not going to be another Iraq, because all the things you're saying sound an awful lot like another Iraq. We've heard all this mixed messaging. It's about the nuclear program, but it's not about the nuclear program. It's about short-range ballistic missiles, but it's not about that. It was about a preemptive strike because if we didn't do it, then they were going to strike us, but we were going to do it because the Israelis were going to do the strike, and then they were going to strike us because of that. But the only reason they were going to be able to strike us is because we put people there to be struck. So that's kind of weird. We just seem like we've got a lot of mealy-mouthed discussions. This might as well be the talking in tongues. Who the hell's cheering on this stuff? Listen, guys, this is not Iraq 2.0, right? It certainly is not. Because we're doing 15 out of 15. We already destroyed their Navy. That wasn't even on the list of things we were supposed to be doing.
This is not Iraq. This is not Afghanistan. We have the kinetic capabilities, the stealth capabilities, the munitions, the counter drone technology that we did not have back then, and the experience and the knowledge that we have learned from the illicit war from Russia on Ukraine, the knowledge that we've gained from that. We are using this technology, and that's why the president took this decision to strike before we were struck. There was an imminent threat of danger. The development of intercontinental ballistic missiles by Iran, the largest sponsor of terrorism, Islamic terrorism in the world, who has continued to be a bully, continued to be an enemy, who has sworn war and has sworn the death of Americans and the death of Jews all over the world.
This is a short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain be for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Short-term pay for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain. Short-term spike for a long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers.
We may have to deal with that in the short term.
Short-term and temporary.
Temporary short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain. Short-term.
I stand before you today with one unmistakable message about Operation Epic Fury. America is winning, decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy. Under the direct command of President Trump, the War Department unleashed this operation early Saturday morning, just 4 days ago. We are only 4 days into this, and the results have been incredible. Historic, really. Only the United States of America could lead this, only us. But when you add the Israeli Defense Forces, a devastatingly capable force, the combination is sheer destruction for our radical Islamist Iranian adversaries. To our steadfast partner, Israel, Your mission is being executed with unmatched skill and iron determination. Fighting shoulder to shoulder with such a capable ally is a true force multiplier.
And we're going to win. Israel and the United States, you just wait to see what comes in the next 2 weeks.
The next 2 weeks meaning what?
We're going to blow the hell out of these people. This regime is in a death row now. It is going to be on its knees. It's going to fall. And when it falls, we're going to have peace like no other time. We're going to have prosperity unlike anyone could ever imagine. Peace brings prosperity. You can't do it by talking. The Democrats criticize this operation. They didn't do a damn thing. These men and women in the military should make us all proud.
Cool. We're going to have peace like nobody knows it after we blow them all to hell, says war boner, throbbing, no longer needing any sort of Pfizer additions, Lindsey Graham. This us and Israel. Us and Israel doing awesome stuff. So now we find out that the son of the Ayatollah that was killed in not a decapitation strike, that was a decapitation strike that wasn't done by the United States. It was done by Israel, but it was done by us. No real clear answer on that. A guy named Mojtaba Khomeini has now been named the supreme leader. So now they'll have to blow him up. He's like 56 years old. Read this story here. Mojtaba Khomeini has been named as the Iranian new supreme leader, succeeding his father just a week after he was killed in U.S.-Israeli airstrikes. We don't know which one, apparently. A statement comes from the Assembly of Experts, a panel of Shia clerics responsible under Iranian law for choosing the country's top leader. It said that Mojtaba Khomeini has been selected as the third leader of the Islamic Republic, according to IRIB, state TV, and the Fars, and the Tasnim, and the ISN news agencies. He's the second son. He's 56 years old. He's widely viewed as a hardline figure. So wait a minute. We softened them up with a bunch of airstrikes. We put their navy at the bottom of the ocean. We've been out there destroying their short-range ballistic capabilities, and we removed their nuclear capabilities, but they picked a more hardline guy. It's almost like they're digging in on this stuff. Luckily, this is not, I mean, guys, you heard it. This is not going to be like Iraq, right? Like, this is not going to be where we face like a protracted enemy. They're going to give up and welcome us in. They're going to want us to come in and give them democracy, right?
This is not Iraq. This is not Afghanistan. We have the kinetic capabilities, the stealth capabilities, the munitions, the counter drone technology that we did not have.
Oh, so we got counter drones. We've got all kinds of like cool stuff that we could use. So that's all really helpful. So the good news is that we've got all these things that are really going to change the game. It'll be nothing like the previous situation in any other war that we haven't been great. Is there really a good example? And I keep asking, and I asked George Hill, and he didn't have an answer for me, and maybe one of you guys know. What's the great example of the United States toppling a regime with a kinetic strike and then it like resulting in something other than a failed state? The best example I got was Germany and Japan in World War II. That's back when we used to call wars wars. We don't do that anymore. Now we just do whatever this thing is. And now we've got this guy running Homeland Security, so everything should be fine. You're totally not going to find yourself in a situation where there's like a foreign terrorist threat on an American airplane, right? Oh. Well, this was a flight that was on its way to Florida and had to land in Atlanta because some guy was acting weird. I'm going to turn down the audio in the cabin. Oh, those are SWAT team guys that are rolling in. I watched a woman's video on this. She's really bad at telling the story, but essentially they were en route. Some guy was getting a bunch of attention from the flight attendants. That's probably the guy right there. And then they ended up landing emergency-wide in Atlanta without telling him where it was going. They spent an hour and a half on the tarmac doing some sort of a hasty ops plan, and then they sent in this SWAT team from Atlanta PD to come and pull this guy off. So that's cool. So we've got that going. I feel extra sarcastic today. At least like the people that are against war are going to be against war, right? Like the anti-war type people, they haven't like changed teams because it was involving Israel. That Bill Maher doesn't like war, I don't think.
Also, this week, war. Did you hear about that thing? We bombed Iran, and it's going on. Now, have you expected me to say I hate it? I don't. Sorry. When he puts boots on the ground, yeah, then I'll hate it. Now, I know too many happy Iranian Americans. Sorry. And You cannot name one horrible thing that has happened in the Middle East in the last 50 years and not connect it to this fascist theocracy. They're like 6 degrees of they don't eat bacon. And it's...
Very good point. They don't eat bacon. So let's go back to that bacon cheeseburger nationalism position. He said, I can't tell you how many Iranians I know that are happy about this. Now you have to tell me why I care about what Iranians think. You just do. If we're going to be funding it, and I'm about to have to write a check to the federal government for my earnings last year. Many of you have already filed your taxes. You guys understand what's going on here. If you're writing the check to fund it, what in the world does it have to do with me? Why do I care what Iranians think? Why do I care what people who came from Iran that came to my country think about what goes on in Iran? It turns out I don't. 6 degrees of they don't eat bacon. That's exactly the problem. You're not our people. You're not part of this country, and you're not part of the dominant culture. So why on earth are we sending our sons and daughters to fly over there and to maybe put troops on the ground and all the other nonsense? I just don't get it. But luckily, Donald Trump doesn't bluff. So we've got that in our favor. He also doesn't say things and then hold his word to it, because he made some promises in Agenda 47 and he decided to completely ignore them. But he don't bluff. We got this guy now running Homeland Security. We'll kind of cover that as we wrap up here.
No, well, as we know, the president doesn't bluff. He moves on his own time. Everything that he has said, he's able to do. And I believe these will be very coordinated, direct strikes. Remember, our military is always in a position to give the president options. We knew this was a possibility, even though we're not into regime change. We're not. This isn't the Arab Spring like happened underneath Secretary Clinton. But this is the people of Iran standing up to a murderous regime. And if that leadership is going to kill their own people, the president said, we'll come to your rescue.
But you just said you are for regime change here.
No, I said I'm for the strikes. I didn't say...
You said before that you're for taking out the regime.
Yeah, absolutely, because they're the ones murdering their own people. That's different than regime change. The regime change is up to the Iranian people. We're not going actively to remove the regime. We're going after the people that are killing their own people, and that happens to be the regime.
But just to be clear, you support taking out the supreme leader?
If he's the one that's calling these airstrikes or the killings of his own people, then absolutely.
Okay, but that would be regime change.
At that point, the Iranian people have spoke. They want a regime change. It's obviously they want regime change. You see them. The president has warned them, do not kill your own people. He's gave them an opportunity. Right now, if the supreme leader wants to leave. I'm sure Russia will welcome you. But the Iranian people do not want you there. They are tired of your oppression on the Iranian people, and they want their country back.
What happens to...
I'm sort of beside myself, because I don't even know what that means. What he just said, it kind of reminds me of the Happy Gilmore bit. It's not Happy Gilmore, is it? It's Billy Madison. The Billy Madison, where he's up doing the game show. It's like, that was the stupidest thing. We're all dumber for having heard it. I award you no points. I don't know what he even just said. He just said a bunch of words, and none of them made... They're kind of like this lady.
Strike and strike and strike and strike.
That's what I heard. We're going to just keep doing the striking
until you have victory. For every enemy that is aligned against you, let there be that we would strike the ground. For you will give us victory, God. I hear a sound of abundance of rain. I hear a sound of victory.
Right? I mean, it's like, just repeat things that don't make it. We're not doing regime change. We're going to do regime change. We're going to do not regime change. Pete Hegseth said this is just the beginning. CBS News reporting when talking about the strikes. We're only going to be striking the people that are bad. And so the bad people are the problem, obviously. And then when you have the bad people are the problem, then what can you do? You're going to be able to do things like, I don't know, strike Iranian school complex. Video appears to show U.S. missile hitting Iran. This is coming from NPR. They're obviously going to be biased. ABC says the same thing. U.S. missile seen hitting buildings. Experts say 168 people were killed. Remember, we're just attacking the Iranian regime. We're just doing what the Iranians want, and then maybe getting involved in dropping bombs. Look, there's going to be bombs that hit where they shouldn't. There's going to be people that get really pissed off about it. Eyewitness video reported Iranian news outlet, so that's suspect. Shared online by Trevor Ball, former U.S. Army explosive ordnance disposal technician. Works for Bellingcat. Bellingcat's like a CIA cutout, so you got all these sketchy... Like, we're going to be in the middle of the information war where people are sending shady stuff back and forth. At least we have a president that's going to be honest with us and tell us we're doing a good job. If we are, he's going to call balls and strikes, right?
By the way, in Iran, we're doing very well. Somebody said, how would you score it? from 0 to 10. I said I'd give it a 12 to a 15. Their army is gone. They're just about, look, their Navy is gone. Their communications are gone. Their leaders are gone.
It's getting real weird, folks. And I have absolutely no idea what the messaging that they want to put out there on why we're actually dealing with this. You know what bothers me? Like being in America and having things that are not ideal. This is a simple one. NBC News reporting. We still have a government shutdown amid TSA short staffing and their security wait times. So for those of you that are traveling, sorry that you're traveling. Major airports grappling with hours-long security waits because TSA staffings are short amid partial government shutdown. This is a Houston Hobby they're talking about. Nearly 3 hours on Sunday to get through there. Major travel snafus. People are trying to go on spring break and realizing this is not a good idea. Of course, you could always drive. It'll maybe cost up to 50% more if you drive a diesel truck. So there's that. Guys, are you sick of winning yet? Because that's what I remember. We're 15 out of 10. If you were going to give me how good are we doing on Agenda 47, I would probably say of the 20, we're doing 15 out of a scale of 1 to 10. That's how awesome it is, even though we can't seem to get like half of these things done, and we're doing things that we said we wouldn't. That number 9 still bothers me quite a bit. We haven't ended the weaponization of government against the American people. The people out there that are crying about how their shooting went are worried about their social media instead of trying to shut down the weaponized piece of government that's going to come right after us again. Have they dismantled the capabilities of DOJ's Civil Rights Division to come out there and arrest people who are praying outside of abortion clinics? Has that happened? Nah. Have we had a single person arrested for January 6th about conspiracy against rights? Has anybody from either of these organizations that pursued malicious prosecution paid for it with their job? A few. Have any of them paid for it with their freedom? You know, like the thing the DOJ actually does, prosecute people? Nah. Have they been publicly named and shamed? Minimally. Do we have any of the alleged Democrat, people involved in the big conspiracy to destroy this country? Or were any of those people put in jail? No. Jim Comey? No. Are you guys kidding me? You guys can't hear this, but the Harmeet Dillon shooting video just kicked on again. I don't know if it just like randomly picks up, but that's awesome. I like talking about it and then getting gunshots in my ear. So there you have it. Sounds like everything's going great. It's really disappointing. This is when I look at that agenda and I go, this is all that I wanted you to do. You said 20 things. They all sounded great. Make gas more affordable. Sounds good. I guess the president has a lot to do with that with an energy policy. You know how you wouldn't do it? You would do number 7, defend the Constitution, the fundamental freedoms. You'd roll back all of the things that our government was doing, infringing on freedom of speech. That's the Civil Rights Division. The infringing on our right to keep and bear arms. You'd stop defending lawsuits that come against the federal government. You'd prevent World War III by not going into the Middle East for war. I'm just reading off the Trump agenda here. Instead of getting a great Iron Dome system, we got like $220 million worth of advertising from some lady trying to show her face. I guess Kristi Noem thought that she was going to be president one day. That's what I've been told. So that's why she did this. We talked about it last week on 2 separate episodes. I brought up, and her face was the profile picture or the thumbnail on 2 different shows because I could tell the things that she was saying in front of that Senate hearing and the House were absolutely atrocious, and they had the potential of at least ending her career. Here is John Kennedy talking about how we got Markwayne Mullin to be now the Homeland Security Secretary. He's going to have to be confirmed, by the way. That'll be interesting. He'll be confirmed by his own colleagues in that space. Kristi Noem actually went out and talked about this, but first let's hear the story. If you guys don't remember, she basically got badgered into an answer where she said, yes, Donald Trump knew that I was going to spend $220 million on advertisements with my face, representing that you have to leave this country, building, brand awareness for a governor of North Dakota who could go on to be maybe the president in her hopes. Maybe that's what she thought. Here's the aftermath of it. Again, she got removed. She's now the special envoy to the Shield of America, whatever that looks like.
I did my job as a senator. And one of the things I asked the secretary about was the fact that she spent $250 million putting ads out across America, $250 million, in which she was prominently displayed. They looked a great deal like political ads. And I found that breathtaking. And when I see what I perceive to be spending porn, I don't care who does it. I'm going to call it out. I'm pretty cheap when it comes to taxpayer money. I squeak when I walk. And that's what happened. It also came out, though the secretary denied it, that These were no-bid contracts, and then apparently some of them did not go to people whose names she got off ZipRecruiter. They went to political friends. And we talked about that. And I was stunned when she answered categorically that the president approved every single bit of it. Later that day, I got a call from President Trump. He was mad as a mama wasp. He said, Kennedy, I hope you understand that I had nothing to do with this. And I said, well, I do believe you, Mr. President. He was not happy. It was clear to me after that conversation that the secretary's time at the department was limited. That to be blunt, she was dead as fried chicken. And we talked about a few names that he might consider. And then what happened. It's not personal.
Right. So spending porn, she spent a lot of money. He's really cheap with the taxpayer dollars. He also voted for the big, beautiful bill and funded the most expensive government funding in the history of the entire country. And there you have him saying, Kennedy, New York Post, pass more big, beautiful bills before it's too late. Let's spend all of it. I don't believe any of these people as far as I can throw them. Just because he was able to uncover something and point out this problem with Kristi Noem and the fact that he sounds like he was the guy that ended up taking her down doesn't mean that he's a winner. Doesn't mean that any of these people are winners. They all spend money hand over fist. It's your money. And they spend it in ways that are all omnibus, continuing resolutions. They fund every single government agency that they complain about. None of these people have a single bit of principle. Not one of them. They're all playing for that momentary goldfish-like memory, hoping that the voters don't realize what they're doing. And it's nauseating. And the only way they can do it is because we have a 16th Amendment that allows direct taxation by these people who are furthest away from us. And we have a Senate that is representing people as mass that are fickle and don't have any good memory and make terrible decisions and give money to Paula Whites. Instead of being like our state legislatures where it's supposed to be, where it's supposed to go, nah, you know what? We'd like to keep that money back here in Texas or in Louisiana or in Florida or in New York or Maine or Vermont or whatever it is that your state has for its own project. Shouldn't it stop that? It's kind of wild to watch it. I can't help but see it. And anyway, Kristi Noem had some thoughts on trying to defend herself. She's, I would say, politically toast in this country. I don't think she's going to be politically relevant for a very long time. I don't think that her aspirations of running for president will be well capitalized on. And everything she did with that spending and all of those ads will be played just as hit ads. They'll just go, your candidate for president spent $220 million on these stupid like dress up ads. And here she is trying to address that. She went to CPAC to go and talk about it.
Talked to me several times. We had several meetings during the transition talking about it. And he said to me one day, we had a meeting, I left his office, and then Natalie came chasing me down the hall, and she goes, the president wants to tell you something he forgot to visit with you about. So I came back into his office, and he said, Kristi, do you know those ads that you did in South Dakota?
Oh,
and
yes,
I said,
yes,
yes sir. You mean my Freedom Works Here ads? And he said, yeah, those ones where those beautiful ads, those beautiful ads you did about South Dakota. They had Mount Rushmore, all those things. He said, I want you to do those for the border.
Brilliant.
And I said, well, sir, I don't know how that works. You mean the ones where I was a plumber and where I was an electrician? And I don't know if I can do those for the border. And he said, no, I want you to do those for the border. And I want you to do those everywhere, not just in the United States, but I want them around the world. I want you to tell people not to come to this country if they're going to come here illegally. And I said, well, sir, we can do press conferences. You know, we can tell people what we're doing. And he said, nope, we're not going to let the media tell this story because the media will never tell the truth. We're going to do a marketing campaign to make sure the American people know the truth of what you're doing. And
yeah, this is what I voted for, right? I just need a marketing campaign for a woman in her 50s wearing hooker boots, sitting there with Mercedes Schlapp, who's wearing some sort of ball gown, so they can stand up there and do theatrical presentations that are legitimately on their face theatrical. You know, when you were pretending to be, she said, when you were a plumber and an electrician. No, honey, you were never a plumber or an electrician. You were pretending in an advertisement. That's how much these people in this theater for ugly people actually think that they're real. Every single time we talk about politics is show business for ugly people, we tell you it's theatrical. All of this stuff is just for show. They will actually think it's real. Maybe that's why they're out there doing all these weird little videos talking about places that are not our country. It's pretend for grown-ups. They have pretend fights. They have pretend revelations. They have pretend hearings. They have pretend investigations. What's the result of any of them? Nothing. $40 trillion worth of debt. It was $7 trillion when I graduated from high school. We've done more damage to this country since I became a voting adult than 250 years prior. It's freaking insane. And it's because we broke the system and then we expect it to somehow be able to be corrected with some little minor balancing act on the top of the scaffolding. It won't work. It cannot work. Maybe we should have a throwback on like what it used to take to be a president, somebody who could have been king in this country but chose not to, or we could just laugh about the fact that there's always lies that are posted up there, and when you start finding out what they are, they're a little bit unsettling. So we're going to do a palate cleanse in just 1 second. Guys, I haven't plugged it at all, but if you have not liked this video, I'd appreciate it if you did. Give us a like on Rumble. Give us a like on YouTube. We're going to continue to be a sane voice. I'm not just making complaints for the sake of complaints. I'm calling out what I consider to be very obvious hypocrisy. And I think that a lot of people that are aware that bacon cheeseburger nationalists, they just want you to be fiscally responsible with their money, get government out of their business, stop trying to tell us how to like raise our kids or worship, stop putting weirdos in front of us and telling us that they're normal, stop doing any of that crap. Maybe stop being the big thing that government is and just go back to being the manager of, I don't know, interstate commerce and some trade, and stop bombing countries that we don't need to spend money on. We can't spend our way out of debt. We can't fight our way out of a war that we started ourselves. We can't lie our way out of promises that you made that are published and they're going to be there forever. So if you guys like this program, by all means, share it with a friend. Hopefully there's some informative stuff in here that you guys can walk away and at least see some of the garbage. That'd be great. You can find us on Rumble. It's rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. YouTube, it's rumble.com/@Kyle Seraphin. You can find us on Spotify at KyleSeraphinShow.com. Very easy to do over there. And you can find the Tackleberry project, which is about ready to go. I'm just tweaking it, guys. I'm neurotic about it, but I do want it to look really good. I did my first videos in front of it for our friends over at Silent. So check that out. Join us on locals, KyleSeraphin.com. If you want to be part of our free community, you want to be a paid member and support the program here. It keeps us independent. Nobody can tell me what to say or to think, and I won't take any talking points. God, I wish they would send them to me, though, because I would read that to you so you could see exactly what the lies are. It's just never going to come my way because they probably have a pretty good idea what I'm about. All right, that's the program for today. Let's laugh about something. How about one of my favorite comedians, Shane McGillis? I watched one of his stand-up specials from before Donald Trump's first presidency with my wife over the weekend, and I got this little fun thing about how they pitch you one thing, the story ends up not being true. This is a great example of the illusory truth effect. Worth going back into the archives and digging up that if you guys need more on it. Here's the illusory truth effect about George Washington's teeth, which were apparently made out of wood, except that they weren't. So here's a humorous take on it.
And the last thing you see in the George Washington tour is George Washington's teeth in a case. And if the myth is George Washington had wooden teeth. Turns out George Washington it was ivory and lead dentures with horse and cow teeth on the top row and human slave teeth on the bottom row. Damn, what the fuck? That's it. That's how the tour ends. You gotta walk outside to a hot, sunny parking lot. Like, what the fuck was that at the end? Also, lead with the teeth. Show me the teeth right away. Dude, don't make me love George Washington for 2 hours and at the very end be like, you want to see some wild shit? And once you see his teeth, every story about him makes perfect sense. Like, he was a man of few words. It's like, yeah, dude, he had fucking donkey teeth and fucking... Like, I can't believe we defeated the British. I know how we did it. We had a fucking 6'2", redheaded, retarded guy out in the woods just waiting for those motherfuckers, dude. 6'2" in 1770, that's like 6'10" today. Red hair, horse teeth, a sword, just... Do you want to tax me, motherfucker? Some 5-foot British guy, oh! Run, it's George! And the last thing you see on the George Washington tour is George Washington's teeth.
Can we just get some like 7-foot-tall, red-headed, snaggletooth dude that stops the taxation? I don't know what that looks like, but I want it. All right, I hope you guys have a good day. This week's going to be interesting, kicking it off. I look forward to seeing you guys as we go through it, so come back here. Stick around for the American Radicals podcast. If you're on Rumble, you'll see my buddy Steve Fred at AmRadPod. God bless all of you. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.